All right, we are doing one of my most anticipated interviews. So many people have said, please, please, please have your daughter back on. She's amazing. We want to hear everything she has to say. And I absolutely agree. So we have with us today Grayson Starling. Welcome and thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you for having me.
So, what I'm really excited about, the questions that I have prepared give you the opportunity to share your experience authentically. So, I know that you're going to be 100% honest, which I love because there are a lot of parents out there that have teenagers that want to be very brutally honest and they're fearful of it. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So tell us about your journey. What did brokenness look like for you and how did it feel in that space?
It's overwhelming. I can remember from being where I'm at to being where I was, just the feeling of not even wanting to wake up the next day. And that's one of those things that, I really took for granted, was just being able to wake up. I would wake up and it would kind of be like, how am I going to get through this day? I don't want to be here on this day. I don't want to eat on this day. I don't want to do anything. And if anyone tried to encourage me, I didn't want to be encouraged. I felt comfortable where I was in the most uncomfortable way possible. It's really hard to explain. It was mentally draining, but also it was, in my mind, more mentally draining to change from where I was at to be better. So I was kind of just stuck in this rut of trying to reach out to find things to give me happiness that were so temporary. It almost felt like I couldn't try anything else other than what I had tried, which were not good avenues that I had taken. And it just kept me in that place of not wanting to change because it was just comfortable where I was.
So it was almost as if you were comfortable in making all of the decisions that were keeping you miserable.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's so crazy.
At what point did you realize that you were no longer stuck in that dark place? Was there like a specific moment or a realization that shifted things for you?
I wouldn't say it was a specific moment as much as specific moments that encouraged me to continue to reach for more moments like that. It was kind of like when I started finding ways to adapt and do things differently and having different feelings towards what I was doing, I would kind of strive for that feeling again. And it would push me to want to grow more, but I wouldn't say I had like a specific I'm different, I'm changed now. It was a, oh, I got this, oh, I failed. Okay, I'm going to try again. Oh, I got this, oh, I failed again. And that's one thing for me, I know, because I have other people, in my life saying like, what was like the turning point for you? Like what helped you to change? And it's really just striving for that. You have to want to change in order to get that. I remember a lot of people would ask me, when I was like down in my lowest, like I did the thing where I faked being changed because I wanted people to be proud of me. And so I would like kind of fake it, like, no, I'm doing better in this. And they were like, oh, that's amazing. And then I would just, the next day, it would not be the same. But for me, there wasn't a specific change of events and my mentality. It was I felt good when I tried certain things, and that caused me to strive for that more. And even though I'm still not even perfect at it, it's one of those things where I figured out things that work for me, so I do those whenever I'm feeling down like I used to feel, and revert to other things. Now I revert to the things that I've learned that help me get through them and learn from them, instead of just blocking them out and not wanting to deal with the thoughts.
I love that. And can you give like something specific, something that you used to feel in your coping mechanism versus something that you feel now and how you currently cope?
Yeah, I would say for me it's anxiety. I used to struggle really bad with anxiety, and when I would get those feelings of anxiety, it was almost like the world is over. I am running out of breath. I am going to die, or I want to die, or I want to just physically hurt myself to feel the mental pain I'm in right now. And now I can catch it so early now because I'm so in tune with myself, and I really listen to myself more than I used to now. And I really think that comes with valuing yourself. Like, if you were to see someone else be down in pain, you would want to go and comfort them. Why aren't you doing that for yourself? And that's kind of where I got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't feel good right now. I'm going to take a second. I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm not going to try and please people right now. And I'm going to figure out what I need to get through what I'm going through right now. And I think that's what changed a lot for me was now when I have anxiety, it's like, okay, we're going to breathe. We're going to think about exactly why we're feeling this way. And once we point down why we feel this way, then we're going to start to realize that it's temporary and that it's really not that big of a deal. And some situations are harder than others. Some situations I'm like, okay, this is temporary, but this is going to hurt a lot. And so the thought of the pain that I'll have to go through, maybe mentally or physically through whatever I'm going through, might still cause me anxiety. But it's one of those things, if you think about it, okay, this will be tough, but imagine what I'm going to learn and grow from this situation. It's kind of one of those things that it shifts your mentality from, okay, this is terrible, I have so much anxiety, to I wonder what I'm going to learn from this and what I'm going to grow from this with. Yeah.
I love that. So how did you first become aware of energy? This word energy can be quite triggering for people, especially people who see it as some sci-fi, unrealistic part of reality. What was your initial reaction when you started to understand how powerful it can be?
You were my first person that I was like, oh my gosh, like, I need my recharge. And what I mean by that is, like, anytime I would be in one of those places where I did not feel like I could get myself out of, it was, let me put myself around my mom because she'll make me feel better. And in doing that, I learned how to do it myself by watching you and watching you keep your energy high in situations where I would think, why isn't she freaking out right now? Like, this is a bad situation. We should be freaking out. And seeing you be calm and keep your energy levels where you needed to almost just kept me there with you. Like, just seeing how strong you were through things like that. And then learning to do it myself now that I work a serving job, and I really realized it's so crazy. And I've even tested it out myself. I've gone to a table and I've been like, hey guys, my name is Grayson. I'm going to be helping you today. Just starting off with really intense energy. I always get matched immediately. It's almost like people can't not match it, you know? And then, if I go to the table and I maybe heard someone talk about me before I walked up to the table and I'm just like down a little bit, I'll be like, hey guys, like, I'll still try to have the same energy, but like inside, I just am not all the way where I need to be. And I'll always get can we get waters or something, like, and I'm like, oh yes. And then I lower my energy because I'm like, okay, they don't want me acting like that. And that in turn just causes everything to go down when mentally, and then I've realized if I mentally prepare myself, look, nothing's stressing me out right now. I am at a job, I am making great money, and I'm gonna go make great money off this table. It does not fail. Like, it just does not fail. And that's more of an eye opener to energy than anything.
Yeah. Can you share an example of a situation where you consciously shifted your energy from a negative space to a more positive one? And how did that change things for you? Like something specific in your life where you thought, okay, I'm just going to reframe this with a different mindset and see how that shifts.
Yes, I remember the first time that I actually tried to do that. I had come back from the girls' home that I was staying in, and I remember you had said we were going to do something, and then plans had changed, and it was nothing that anyone could help. But when the plans changed, it really lowered my energy. I was extremely upset. I couldn't understand why. When I came home from the lighthouse, the girls' home that I was in, you had we had made a plan and it just really it wasn't working out, and I still wanted to go through with what we were going to do, even though you were saying like it wasn't going to work anymore. And it really like lowered my energy, and I couldn't understand how you were just okay. Like, for some reason, it was one of those things. I can't remember the exact thing that we were doing, but something had changed and you were like, it's fine. And I was like, no, it's not. This is not fine. Like, I'm going to freak out. We were planning to do this. And it was one of those things for me as well, where I had been in the girls' home for so long. I was wanting to get out and do things. So it wasn't like it would have normally made me feel this way, but it was one of those things where I was really looking forward to it because it was something that I hadn't done in a really long time. And I remember we went and did something else instead of what we were originally planning to do. And you were just over in the passenger seat. We weren't really talking because I was very mad at you. And I remember just thinking, okay, I don't want to feel like this anymore. Like, she's over there fine. Like, she's completely fine. This has not affected her at all. And I am, like, wanting to bawl my eyes out and hide under a rock. And I was like, there's no way that this is, like, a normal thought that I should be having right now because nothing's really going on. The world is not ending. It's just the plans have changed. And so I remember I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try and be happy. And so I played a song that I was like, you know what, this was gonna just like, I'm just gonna forget about what's going on and I'm gonna try and be happy. And as soon as I just was like, I'm gonna try and be happy, and it was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to become happy and not be sad anymore. I did it. It was one of those things where it was like, since I wanted change and I was putting in the effort to raise my energy, it happened. And then feeling that, I remember I told you that I felt it and I was like, this is amazing. Now I know how to come out of it again. The next thing would happen that would make me feel down. I'd be like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to raise my energy. And it was one of those things that it's like you almost forget how easy it is to raise your energy and forget about what's going on and realize that it's temporary. And over time, you know, I've gotten so much better at it and realizing how I need to get in that space of just calming myself down, really realizing things are temporary and raising my energy from them. But I remember the first time I did it, I was like, I got this. Like, this is going to be great. And not even an hour later, I was like, I want to crawl under a rock again. But yeah, no, it was once you get it that first time, you're gonna strive for it more and more because of how great the feeling it is that you get. You might just have to find different avenues to get there because the first way you tried might not be the way that's the strongest or the quickest to get you in that highest energy. And so just once you feel it, striving for it and really wanting change in your life, you're gonna work to find those ways. And I feel like everyone's different because everyone's had a different life growing up and they respond to different things better than maybe other people would. So finding out for yourself what the best way to get in that place of a higher energy is life changing.
Yes. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced on your path from broken to beautiful, and how did you work through them?
That's a tricky one because I feel like there are several times in my life that I've tried to go through the change, but kind of like lost my way and gave up on, you know, completely getting to where I am today, and hopefully to grow more on that. But I would say the girls' home that I went through was probably mentally one of the most challenging things I've been through. Just as far as, you know, being away from family and being in a new environment. And I remember my first couple months there, I was like, how can I bust out of this place? Like, how can I leave? Because I don't want to be here. This is not meant for me. I am not supposed to be here. These girls around me have done things so much worse than I've done. This is not fair. I don't want to be here. And that mentality is what kept me where I was. And as soon as I realized that this was something that I needed in my life to grow from, and finding what it was that I needed to grow from gave me a purpose to be in there. And once I found my purpose for being in there, it went from being one of the most challenging things that I've ever been through to how can I overcome this? And I think one of those things for me was, you know, being in a setting where, you know, growing up, I did not like to be told what to do. If you told me what to do, I was like, how can I combat this? How can I do what I want to do instead? And really just finding that place of, okay, this is where I'm at and I need to adapt to this change. Even though this change is not forever, I need to get through this with best attitude I can get through this with so that I can go home and I can live the rest of my life. And I remember that there was one time something had happened and I could not, I was like, this is so unfair. This is just unfair. This is not fair. I just want to go home. I can't talk to anybody. I just need to rant to somebody. And I remember I told them, I was like, I'm not coming out of my room. I will not. And I was one of the girls who was like, yes, ma'am. I want to be on a good level. I want to be respected by people in here. I don't want them to think that I need this. Like, I'm going to be the best student in class. And this day I was just like, no, like, I'm done. Like, I give up. And I remember on that day when I rebelled and I was like, no, they were like, okay, well, you're going to sit at this table until we can figure things out. And I remember thinking that that was the most unfair thing that someone could ever do. And I'm sure it's different for everyone, but for me, I really needed that because what that made me do was sit with my thoughts and actually have to deal with them instead of saying, I'm not dealing with that right now, that's stressing me out. And I sat there and I just mentally made like a bullet point of all of the things that I was going to start working on in myself and how I was not going to fight it any longer, that I was going to accept and embrace where I was at, and I was going to use it to help me change. And I remember we were communicating a lot while I was there by sending letters back and forth. And I actually went through some of them the other day, and I was like just reading how my paragraphs that I sent to you changed into like positive things and reading into things that were like motivating me and encouraging me. And I feel like even though that was one of the toughest things that I've ever been through, I learned just to be grateful for life. And that was one thing that I never had before. I was not grateful for life. I was not grateful to wake up in the morning. I honestly did not want to wake up in the morning. And just being grateful for the life you were given is one of the like first bullet points I would say to anyone that's like going through a rough time. Is like, I know you're thinking, why should I be grateful for this? Like, why should I be grateful when I'm going through something like this? But you can make your life what you want it to be. And once you realize you can make your life what you want it to be, you want to be grateful for it because you want to make it what it's supposed to be and what you were put here to be. And so I think once I got to the realization of, okay, this is my life, I am grateful for it, and I want to be happy in it, that changed everything for me. And I don't think I would have gotten that without being put through one of the hardest things I feel like I've ever been through.
I love that. I feel like we should back up just a hair because people that are watching this are going to wonder, okay, she keeps talking about this girl's home and all of these hard things she went through. And although we don't necessarily want to dig too deep into the negative, could you just give a brief description of what that means, just so that those that are listening can kind of understand where you came from and why you went through that season of your life? Why was that necessary to get you where you are?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to start off with that was the most, me going through that and talking about it is the opposite of negative, in my opinion. It's one of those things that I've gone through that I used to think of as negative that now I'm like, I can't wait to tell people like what I've been through and how I overcame it. But I do remember, so there was a lot going on, when I was younger, it was a extremely structured family. It was church every Sunday. We're all going to dress up and we're going to match our colors and all this other stuff. And then, we moved out to the farm. And that was amazing. I loved being able to experience all of that. And, me and my sister were extremely close. Like, we were besties. We were homeschooled our whole lives. We grew up together. And slowly it felt like things were falling apart. Well, actually, quickly. It was quickly that things felt like they were falling apart. And I think that's what was so mentally hard for me at a younger age was things were perfect and now they're not. And I don't know how to adapt to change. My sister was like, let me follow all of these rules to make my mom's life easier because she's going through a lot. And I was like, how can I make this harder on my mom? But it wasn't how can I make this harder. It was how can I get attention from this? How can I am lacking what I used to have and I want it back. And I in turn, made a lot of decisions like going to live with my dad at a state where he wasn't at his best, and that caused a lot of, mentally tough things that I went through. And then, coming back home, feeling like my family hated me for absolutely, like, just a childlike mind that I had. I just felt like I was the cause of all of the problems because I wasn't a perfect child and I wasn't following the rules. And that caused me to, want something to control. And what I found to control was my food intake, what I would eat and what I wouldn't. And when I realized no one can make me eat and no one can make me not eat, it's one of those things that I get to control what I do with that. And so, I ended up restricting food completely out of my life. I got to an extremely unhealthy weight, and I went back and forth with that from, not eating to gaining so much weight that I was unrecognizable not even 2 months later because of trying to find things to cope with that would make me happy. When that stopped working, I did turn to self-harm, and it started off as one of those things that I felt like it could get me out of a panic situation to distract me. And then it came one of those things where people don't want me to do it, and my body, and I can do what I want with my body. And it almost became like an addiction for me. It was like, I want something bad to happen so that I can take it out on myself. And that's mentally like a really tough spot to put yourself in because it's not fair to yourself. And I was doing it to myself multiple times a day. And I remember I had gotten to a point where I felt like a burden, and it was stuff I was doing to myself. I was putting myself in situations to feel like a burden because I was comfortable in that. That's where I had adapted to. And I remember there was one day I just woke up and I was like, I'm leaving. I'm running away. I'm getting away from this. I can't do this anymore. And I had planned the whole thing out, and I got caught. I got caught leaving, and I remember that night so well. And I remember you coming to me just basically telling me that you did not know what else to do, that you wanted me to be happy and you didn't want me to hurt myself. And we had talked about me going to a girls' home in the past, but it hadn't really worked out. But I remember I was so angry with you. Like, I was so upset with you. And I remember when we went on like a little beach trip beforehand. And I remember, there was one morning I woke up, and I don't think I've ever told you this before, but I woke up, you were already out on the beach and I was still in the hotel room, and I looked out the little window because we were on the beach, where we had gone, and I looked out the window and I saw you were like shedding tears outside while you were reading a book. And I just remember thinking, she's not doing this to me because she wants to be mean to me. She wants me to change. She wants me to grow. She wants me to be better, and I need to accept that. And that was one of those things where I remember my attitude had shifted. And even though I had been mean to you up into that point of the trip that we were on, I remember the rest of the drive there, we played music and we laughed and we joked around with each other because I realized that what you were doing was trying to help me, and I needed to be grateful to you in that and not make you feel like a bad mom in that. And understanding that everyone has emotions as well, and realizing that even though I was really angry and upset about going where I was going, that you were probably just as upset as I was having to leave your daughter somewhere where you didn't know exactly how she was going to be taken care of. And just trusting that I was going to be taken care of because the facility was great and everything like that, but it's still being really tough. And yeah, so that's what initially led me to the Lighthouse and to one of the most difficult but life-changing things I've ever been through.
Wow, whew, that's a that's a that's a memory that I'm grateful for, and also for me in particular is very challenging to go back there because it does seem like it was yesterday. And like I've told you, it was by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. It was the most, as a matter of fact, the night before when we were at the store shopping for all of the supplies that you needed was the very first time in my entire life that I experienced a panic attack. And so it was so necessary in order to be who I am today. All of it was necessary. Who or what was the most pivotal influence in your life that helped guide you toward the person that you are becoming?
Yeah. Just being able to, I mean, I know you're my mom, and that's like the common answer to say, but really just, even though I was in a really low spot and I'm working myself from that, I'm only able to do that because I've seen you do it. And I think it's a lot easier, for people. I'm not saying you can't do it without having, such a personal influence in your life, but seeing firsthand someone go from literally being so upset and sad every day and not knowing what to do with her feelings, and then, me being in trouble a lot and having to stay by your side a lot, and just hearing you try and motivate yourself before you even knew all that you know today. I would be in the dog grooming room and you would just play these annoying motivational things over and over. And I remember thinking, what is she playing this for? This is not going to help her. Like, this is stupid. He's just repeating affirmations over and over. Like, what is. And then I remember you'd come and put them in my room as I was sleeping, and you'd press play while I was sleeping so I could hear those affirmations. But all of that, even though I used to be so annoyed with it, I look back on it now and I'm like, what an amazing mom to try and be that impactful on your child, to realize that something is helping you, and instead of trying to push and grow more in that, to try and invest it in your child first, even though that didn't work out exactly how we planned it. Just looking back and realizing that's what you were trying to do in that moment has wanted me to be just like that, and wanting to get motivated and get inspired in my life and be an inspiration for other people as well. I feel like that's the biggest, I mean, that's why we all need to grow, so that once we've grown and we've gotten past what we've been through in our life, we can not be ashamed of what we've been through, but be excited to tell people what we came from. And I feel like that's like the biggest thing you've shown me, is you can go through some of the hardest things ever and still come out of them, and realizing while you're in the hard places that this is temporary. Like, that's just one of the biggest things that I live my life on right now, is this is temporary. Even if it's happiness, it can be temporary. You have to make it last. You have to put the effort in to live the life that you want to live, and it's not worth it. It is the most worth it thing you could ever do, because once you realize how it feels, and I only saw that from you, I would be like, why is she so happy? This is so annoying. Like, why we're not in a happy place? Let's just strife it out real quick. And it was always, no, because I'm keeping my peace. And that's not what you would say, but it would be like that kind of, for me, like, she doesn't get upset anymore. And that pisses me off, because I want to be upset with her, and I can't be upset with her if she does not lower herself to where I'm at right now. And you didn't, and you wouldn't, and you refused to, because you knew what it felt like, and you knew what I felt like, and you were pitying me from the place that you were at and wanting me to be where you were. So only lowering yourself would cause me to stay down there as well. And when I realized that you weren't trying to not let me have my emotion, you weren't trying to not let me speak what I wanted to say, you would let me say whatever I needed to say. You just wouldn't join me in that. And I remember for so long it upset me. I was like, why can't we just have like a strife it out conversation where we tell each other how we feel? And I realize now it's because you wanted me to not feel that way anymore. And in order for me to get from where I was at to where you were, coming down to my level was the worst thing you could do for me, And I think that's just what caused me to want to be where you are. It's realizing in a situation, wow, my mom is like, does not care. Like, she just is living her life through this, and wanting to have that freedom and that happiness was from seeing it firsthand.
I love that. And we have so much more to talk about. So I want to continue this conversation in our next podcast.
Yes.
So stay tuned for the next podcast that's coming. Hear more of Grayson's story and why and how she went from being a very angry teenager, self-harming, eating disorder, all of the typical things that you see in the youth today, to literally thriving and flourishing, and people wanting to know, what is it about you that is so contagious? Because you're absolutely amazing. So Grayson, thank you so much for being here with us for this podcast, and check us out on the next one.
Yes, definitely. Can't wait.